Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to a new episode of the Peak Signing Agents podcast and YouTube channel where me, your host, DVO, Derek Van Otten, I'm helping you become the best notary and signing agent that you can possibly be. Well, let me give you another tip then for this episode because I got a lot of feedback from a few of my clients and I thought, you know what? I told them I would pass this message on to my notaries that I hire, but then I thought I better make sure I tell all of you this tip so that we avoid any delays in funding because the issue my clients told me was, hey, you know what? The counties are almost going to deny the recordings. And the reason is the notary's stamp, the actual ink on the stamp is too light and the county can't record. So I want to go in detail why this is important and my tip to you, okay? So think about this. As you stamp, when it gets back to title, the title company is going to scan it. The title company is not sending, most of the time, originals. The originals that you, as the notary, that actually signed and stamped the paperwork, they are not sending the originals to the county recorder's office, and they're not sending the originals to the mortgage company most of the time. They are scanning it and then sending scans. And sometimes they still sometimes need to send the originals, but they're not in a hurry because they have the scans. And they're going to record off the scans for now, but they still want the originals. They just need it. They just need them to send it a little bit later. So what's happening is when your stamp, the ink in your stamp is too light, and then the title company is scanning that, it becomes even lighter. And as they forward that on, they can't read and they can't tell, hey, we can't see the stamp. We can't see the seal. We can't see the notary's name. We can't see their commission number, their expiration date, whatever it is. So that's why it's so important that you keep your stamp inked very well. You need to have sufficient amount of ink. A couple things I recommend is that you keep ink on hand, either at home or in your notary bag, so you can refill your ink. All right, that's a tip that I've got for you. One thing that I do is I buy my stamp from a local company that actually makes stamps and other products. And because I buy my stamp from there, they ink it free for me. It's funny because they think, oh, this will last you for your whole 4 years of commission. This will last you the whole time. And I have to say, oh, you don't understand. I'm a notary signing agent. I stamp a lot. I'm not just a notary at a bank. I'm going to be stamping a lot of documents. And so I get it filled. In my 4 years of having my commission, I get it filled a few times. So that's my tip. Make sure it's well inked. And why? Because if it is not, it will not record. You might delay funding just because you might have done the whole packet correct, but just because you do not have sufficient amount of ink in, you have just delayed it. That's what I want you to avoid. Okay, make sure that it is well inked. So some tips that I have, because even if you have a brand new stamp with brand new ink inside, and then you go and stamp that paperwork, sometimes it doesn't come through right. So what are the reasons? It could be the table surface. Maybe there's some uneven parts of the table. Could be the paper. Maybe the paper wasn't absorbing it well. One thing that I have found that always works really well for me is if I am stamping on a stack of paper. I always find my stamp looks better when I stamp it on a stack of paper. So as you're going through the packet and you're getting to the end, you should have two piles, right? The right pile, this is what I do anyway. The right pile needs to be signed and stamped, and then the left pile has already been signed and I'm flipping the pages over, right? So for me, on the right side, it gets thinner and thinner the more of the document we go through. but I just noticed it doesn't stamp as well. So I actually will stamp it on whatever pile of documents is thicker. I'll usually stamp it on that side. It just makes my stamp, in my opinion, look more pristine and better. So that's something I do. And then while we're on the topic of the colors and stamping and inking well, another tip I have is also the pens. Make sure there's enough ink in your pens. If it starts to look a little bit lighter, you know what? Just swap it out with another pen. Don't have them kind of keep going through it. Same thing with pens. I encourage, because again, as they are scanning and the pen ink is getting too low and you really can't tell very well, and as they scan, it might look like their full signature is not there. So again, something to keep in mind is that when you sign and stamp paperwork, that paperwork is getting scanned. And it's kind of like if you've seen a copy of a copy, like the old Xerox, or make a copier, you make a copy of a copy and make a copy of a copy, it just starts getting diluted a little bit more. It just doesn't look as sharp as the original. And that's what's happening. They're making a copy of your documents. So just make sure your pens and your stamps are well inked, and if not, get them. Carry backup pen. You should always carry tons of backup pens so you can swap it out if the pens are getting low on ink. And same with your stamp. Have some backup ink. I don't carry backup ink with me in my notary bag all the time, but I do have a backup stamp with me at all times. So if I'm out and about and I can tell my ink in my stamp is getting low, I can swap it out for my backup. So I do carry a backup stamp with me. So that I do have. All right, I hope this is a good, helpful tip for you. And if you find these tips helpful that I provide every week, please make sure you are subscribing, liking on podcasts and YouTube, and sharing with anyone else. Talk to you next episode. Bye.